Thank you for joining this quick Edison 365 overview demonstration around improving IT demand management. Demand management is a critical part of IT governance efforts. Today, top performing organizations are combining the soft people skills with supporting software services for the best return on their investment. Given the ubiquity of Office 365 and the Microsoft collaboration platform, people are more connected in business today than ever. That is true whether working in the same building or across the globe. But as IT or PMO leaders, you might still be struggling with the business focused project intake and triage, rapid business case creation, and the evaluation and the actual project performance on the back end. My goal for the next few minutes is to show you there's a simpler, better, and faster way to accomplish important IT demand management efforts. We will frame this around the intake part of demand, the evaluation of potential projects and efforts, and then execution and the outcomes that drive those. We'll be doing this today through a touch PC online through browser pages, but you can do the same thing through a tablet and through iPhones or Android phones along the lines. As I said, we'll be walking through some of these key major steps in the IT governance and demand management phases. So let's go ahead and get started. First, a quick reminder that Edison 365 is built directly on top of Office 365. And what that means is that you get to leverage security, single sign-on, and extensibility of the Office and Microsoft platforms. In other demonstrations, we'll show you how specifically on those. But things like Flow allow us to customize integrations and awareness. Clearly, Excel is used as part of the key fundamentals in many processes, and SharePoint is where we'll be launching and starting, along with threaded discussions through Yammer, etc. So let's go ahead and jump in. When we launch Edison 365, we want to give end users or business stakeholders a quick way of being able to come in and visually add a project request. Simply dropping in, filling out a quick form, and putting that request in. Takes merely seconds or moments as they go through and do it. What's important though is that we always want to frame these ideas up against key strategies or categories such as IT cost reduction, increasing revenue, and other value streams that might be important to the business and or to IT operations when we go through and work with those. And whether we do ideas as a bottom-up activity or we go through and set up these value streams, product lines, service requests, you can go through and do the same thing here. These buckets allow us then to go through and say, if we wanted to reduce our cost or improve our products, what could we do? And through the next steps, a user would create a project request idea, and they become these cards or these quick forms for being able to capture an individual idea. You know, what are the details around this? We might want to let the crowd vote on these. We'll attach them to different areas. We'll even have threaded discussions around them and other documentation and different steps that we would choose to do. And when we flesh one out a little bit later, we'll take a look at this state health DB because this is an idea that came in from an end user and we want to ultimately turn it into a project request. When the demand comes in, how do we let people vote on this? How do we get the opinion of the crowd? Well, we can let folks come in and vote on other submissions for project requests or ideas. And that's great here through the stars, views, thumbs up, thumbs down, different ways of looking at those. Or we can take a little bit more formal process and understand that triage gives us a way to quickly bring them in, just like a hospital, make an assessment or some judgment calls about the value on this particular set of requests, and then act on it accordingly. So as a leadership team or maybe a business analyst working within a department, you might want to go through and help the business users rate and rank the value of a particular idea. So if you follow the blue, you can see we're changing some of these quick slider scales, which will in turn change the value of the particular project request. And this helps us understand the value and the score of these particular items. This then is the triage activity. Some sophisticated portfolio people look at it as a pairwise comparison where we're judging the one value of one versus the other and being able to go through and use these ranks and these scores to help us understand how these particular requests will be judged and acted upon. Of course, once we've taken these steps as a leadership team, we might want to go through and progress some of this work through our portfolio Kanban or through a request here that lets us drag and drop and see what state things are in. I might be in draft, it might be new request, it might be awarded, it might be backlogged. All of those things are available for us. Just as if I wanted to take a Mon and add her to that state health DB and I wanted to let her be a reviewer on this, then I can drag and drop her directly here. I can go through and pull them out of my Active Directory, so the tool is very helpful in working with that. Just as if I wanted to take a Mon's idea and move it over to awarded, then we can simply drag in and drop on here, give them on some feedback, and go from there. So give it the great stuff and move these along that process. At any time, submitters will know exactly what ideas that they've put forward, what project requests, which things are they watching, what are they responsible for, what have they voted, what notifications they have set up relative to email, and so on. Of course, as a management team, we're probably super focused on getting the right kind of reports out. So here we'll open up Power BI and take a look at a quick set of reports that allow us to go through and see specifically how we're doing on these project requests, the challenges that we're focusing on, how things are getting rated and voted. So as we're sending them through the review cycle, which ideas have we awarded, and so on. And this gives us a way to interact and engage with those. We also want to look at the IT portfolio funnel and start to look at how many new requests have come in, how many are currently under review, which ones have awarded. And so now we are moving these through the funnel cycle to manage our IT demand. When spend is significant and demand is high, you will have to or will want to have analysts or business users flesh out these details more. That's when edison365 business case comes into play. Because in edison365 business case, we take those project requests, move them along the life cycle, and let you flesh out or create new project requests for these. And whether these are things like a migration or an upgrade, you can see each different request type might have different flows, different decisions, different steps along the way. And this is useful for our cycle and getting things through the process. If we drill down to create a new business case or look at one, we talked about that state health database before. This says we're currently in financial review. So it's made it past the business analyst, it's made it past the first IT, it's in finance before it might go to SLT and then ultimately to the PMO for execution. But if we drill in here, you'll start to see some of the important details that help us understand what are the things that frame up the value of this from an executive summary point of view. What are the articulated benefits that we're tracking on so we can understand what the payback might be, who owns the details for these particulars, what we expect the roadmap or action item or the task list to look like to get this through the fundamental process, and then begin to drop down into more of the details around our spend, whether it's for cloud services or for consulting or for resource dollars. We get to go through and use business case to articulate these, keep them directly available for reporting and drill down so you can start to understand, well, what might we need for a resource spend before we go through and approve this project, before we assign Jane and John and Jill. Let's go through and put some high level estimates so we can really understand what that looks like at the highest level, and our architects what is the total demand required on these and what impact that will that have. From an investment and appraisal perspective, this is important because it lets us go through and start to look at the costs and the benefit here in year one. And then as we start to drive to year two or year three, we can start to see exactly where our payback period is expected. Here, then, we can start to see the specifics around benefits and costs. And edison365 gives you a terrific way of managing actual benefit realization and accountability that goes along with that. So speaking of accountability, once projects get approved, clearly they most often go to the enterprise PMO or your IT PMO so that the project managers can execute for the given portfolio, that they can take projects through their life cycle, whether they're agile or waterfall, whether they're standalone or part of a transformation project. And just like the other Edison 365 modules, projects gives you a very uh, graphical user experience to look at what are the latest, what are the current in-flight projects, what do we have going on, where is our spend all up relative to effort and progress and cost. We can drill into programs. And programs are a terrific way to keep all of the project work for a given transformation or major initiative, as well as keeping track of the conversations around these and really keep up to date on the performance. And performance can be tracked, of course, at a detailed project level, or things can be stepped up in a reporting way at a higher level where we're looking at things like portfolio swim lanes, highlight reports, risk matrix, and so on. And these would be examples of that where we can see which stage gates particular efforts are in, how they're performing on those, what the individual status of a project may be, and or what's the look all up for our portfolio in terms of the roadmap, in terms of using Power BI to help us understand the portfolio dashboard. If you happen to be the DevOps manager and all you care about are the agile projects, then this is a way for you to drill in on yours. And others can go through and use these same types of highlighting. Looking at items for resource availability in terms of where your spend for people might be, understanding where those key challenges could be, the bottleneck resources that are always the biggest issues for most folks, and or starting to look at things around forecasts, around status, or ultimately risks and issues as we go through and do that. So, in the matter of just a few minutes, we have seen how Edison 365 will help improve the process of capturing IT demand, evaluate which efforts you should prioritize, and how to get things done and delivered. Drop by edison365.com to learn more about how our IT demand management solution can help your enterprise.